Welcome to This Explainer. Have you ever actually looked down at your dinner plate and thought, what is really going on here at a microscopic level? I mean, obviously, we all know we have to eat to survive, right? But the actual mechanics behind our everyday meals are absolutely fascinating. So today, we're taking a journey. We're going to start with the incredible cultural diversity of our daily plates and then zoom way, way in, straight down to the microscopic science of nutrition. We're going to figure out exactly what it is that keeps us moving, growing, and, well, thriving.
Okay, let's dive into this. There's this ancient Sanskrit saying, Anena jatani jivanti, and it beautifully translates to food gives life to living beings. It's a really profound, timeless thought that's basically grounded our understanding of health and survival for centuries. Our ancestors just fundamentally knew that, hey, without food, there's absolutely no life. But, this ancient wisdom inevitably begs a much more modern scientific question.
Think about that for a second. What exactly is inside our food that grants us this life? Like, if food is the fuel, what are the specific building blocks making all this biological magic happen inside our bodies? Well, before we pull out the microscopes to answer that, let's actually take a step back and look at how human beings have historically sourced this life across different regions. Because it's pretty wild. Geographical diversity and local crops directly dictate our traditional diets. Take a massive, diverse agricultural country like India, with all its different soils and climates, we see just incredible culinary variety. Up in Punjab, you've got locally grown maize and wheat giving us those iconic foods like makki di roti. But then you head down south to Karnataka, and abundant rice and ragi translate to daily staples like idli and ragi mude. Or jump over to Manipur, where rice and bamboo literally shape totally unique dishes like aramba. Basically, we eat what the earth around us organically provides, and that literally shapes our cultural identity. And this brilliantly illustrates how, even though the crops themselves stay pretty similar, the way we actually prepare them has evolved completely. On one hand, you've got a traditional chula stove relying on wood and an open flame, and on the other, a sleek, modern gas stove. So technological development, better transportation, improved communication, it's all completely shifted our culinary practices. It's totally changed the speed and the method of how we extract this life-giving fuel from our environment. And, we see the exact same evolution when it comes to food processing. From the manual, super labor-intensive Silbata stone grinder all the way to the modern electrical grinder we use today. Our desire for just, an easier life and improved food prep is super obvious here. Better tech just means we can process foods way faster and with a lot less physical strain. But, and this is the key point, whether you're grinding by hand on a stone or just pushing a button on a fancy appliance, the core objective is exactly the same. We are trying to get those vital, invisible components out of the crop and into our bodies. Which brings us right to the core of today's explainer. What actually are these components of food? So, Section 1, what are the components of food? Let's take the micro view. Right? So we call these vital components nutrients. Nutrients are simply the food components that provide energy, support our growth, help repair and protect our body from diseases, and just generally maintain all our bodily functions. They are basically the true VIPs of our biological existence. Our food essentially delivers the major heavy hitters: carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals. So let's break these down, starting with the one that literally gets us moving. Carbohydrates. These are your body's absolute primary source of energy. I mean, have you ever skipped a meal and just felt completely drained? Or it may be, let's be honest, a little bit grumpy? Yeah, that is your body crying out for carbs. Think of a marathon runner grabbing a swig of glucose water right in the middle of a race. They desperately need that instant energy hit to keep their muscles firing and their legs moving. Everyday things like wheat, rice, potatoes, and even sweet fruits like bananas and mangoes, they are absolutely packed with these energetic building blocks. Now, what's really interesting about this is thinking about why we crave certain foods in specific seasons. Take laddus, for example. It's a traditional winter sweet, often made with loads of ghee, edible gum, and nuts. Well, ghee and oils belong to another incredibly vital component called fats. In the cold winter months, our bodies naturally crave fat-heavy foods just like this. And why is that? Because fats act as a phenomenal, incredibly dense source of stored energy to keep our engines running when the temperature drops outside. Actually, speaking of stored energy, I absolutely love this fun fact. Did you know that polar bears accumulate massive amounts of fat right under their skin just to survive their months-long winter hibernation? It's true. They literally live off these fat reserves without eating a single thing for months on end. No way, right? It just perfectly demonstrates that fats aren't necessarily a bad thing at all. They're an absolutely vital long-term energy storage system designed by nature. Okay, next up we have proteins. If carbs and fats are the fuel in your gas tank, proteins are the structural bricks of your car itself. These are your bodybuilding foods. Whether it's plant-based sources like pulses, peas, and mushrooms, or animal products like milk, paneer, and eggs, proteins are what your body literally uses for physical growth and cellular repair. It's exactly why sportspersons who want to build muscle mass, or, growing children who are still developing their bodies, specifically need high amounts of protein in their daily diets.
All right, moving on to section 2, testing our food. Time for some kitchen science.
So, testing for fats is actually this wonderfully simple experiment that you can do right in your own kitchen today. Here's how it works. First, place a small amount of your food item, maybe a crushed peanut or just a little piece of butter, on a plain piece of paper. Second, fold the paper over to wrap it and press down carefully. Obviously, try not to tear it. Finally, hold that piece of paper up against a bright light source. If you see this faintly shining, translucent, oily patch right there on the paper, congratulations, you've just scientifically proven the presence of fats in your food.
Let's move on and see how this builds into section 3, vitamins, minerals, and fiber, the protectors of our diet.
Now, we're talking about components required by the body in very tiny, almost microscopic quantities. Things like vitamin A from papayas, vitamin C from amla, or iodine from iodized salt. But listen, their impact is massive. Lacking just one of these tiny little components can actually lead to serious deficiency diseases over time. Missing vitamin A? You could suffer from night blindness. Not getting enough vitamin D or calcium? You risk developing weak bending bones, a condition known as rickets. Missing iodine? Well, that can lead to a swollen neck condition called goiter. So they might only be required in small amounts, but they are incredibly mighty protectors.
And of course, we absolutely cannot forget dietary fibers, which you might know as roughage. Now, fiber is really unique because it actually doesn't provide any nutrients to our body at all. Zero. So why is it considered essential? Well, there's a highly relatable reason a doctor might advise, say, a grandmother struggling with digestion, to eat a diet packed with fresh fruits and vegetables. Fiber basically acts as the ultimate broom for your digestive tract. It helps the body get rid of undigested food and ensures a really smooth passage of stool.